All right, I think we will kick things off. So thank you to everyone who's joined us here today for our webinar, Returns, the Hidden Driver of Loyalty. What impact do returns have on a customer loyalty and what can you do about it? In this webinar, brought to you by Optoro and Returnalize, we'll talk with retail experts from Brooks Running and Hatch to learn how the post-purchase experience impacts the customer lifetime value. We'll look at the post-purchase experience and have panelists share their expertise on the impact that returns can make on customer loyalty and lifetime value. I'm super excited to be part of this webinar today. I think you're going to have some great takeaways in terms of how do we shift the out-minded mindset of returns, how a seamless returns process facilitates incremental purchases, how to use returns data to identify revenue opportunities and increase customer loyalty, and really eliminate the friction in your returns to create revenue. So before we get started, a couple more housekeeping items. We definitely want to hear from you throughout this conversation. So please feel free to use the chat box and submit questions. If you have a question for a specific panelist, go ahead and drop it in there as well. And if you just want to comment or find something insightful, please feel free to also place that information into the chat. So to introduce myself, my name is Christine Bradford, and I'm the VP of Customer Success here at Returnalize. And I have a background working with retailers in the digital marketing space. And here at Returnalize, what we've been able to do is really help retailers take their returns, take their returns data and put all that fragmented data into one place so that we can identify revenue opportunities, but also improve the customer loyalty by looking at returns, which is why I'm super excited to be here today and discuss this topic. So I'll allow Crystal to introduce herself next.
Hi there. Thanks for having me. I'm Crystal Date-Dops. I lead the Digital Innovation Program at Brooks Sports. Brooks is a global company headquartered in Seattle, Washington, that makes shoes and apparel for everyone who runs or is active to help them achieve their best run or walk. My role in digital technology innovation works with cross-functional teams and strategic partners, basically to explore new growth opportunities and ways we can improve the customer's experience using Brooks gear and expertise. We use science and deep research to understand a person's natural body movement and what we call an individual's run signature. And by doing these things, Brooks becomes a partner on the run, in the gym, or on a walk, doing it with you. My background is in leading digital product innovation, also creating marketing strategies and executing digital transformation initiatives. I have worked at Microsoft, Getty Images, and the Walt Disney Company.
Thank you, Crystal. Happy to have you. Morgan?
Hey everyone, my name is Morgan. I'm the Senior CX Manager here at Hatch Collection. We sell clothing and beauty products made to be worn and used before, during, and after pregnancy. I've been with the brand for 5 years now, and I've grown alongside the company. I started my journey with Hatch as the Customer Experience Associate, and I've worked my way up to Senior CX Manager. A big part of that is really dialing in on just returns and the whole returns experience and how that relates to the overall customer experience. So super excited to be here and talk about this.
Zach?
Yes, thanks. Hi, everyone. My name is Zach Kramer. I'm the Vice President of Customer Success here at Optoro. So Optoro offers a returns management system that optimizes returns for shoppers and retailers through every step of the returns lifecycle. I've been with the company for 8 years, and my team is fortunate to work with our retailer, brand, and 3PL customers to ensure that our platform is delivering on their business objectives. And customer loyalty is certainly first and foremost on that list. So super excited to chat with you all today about the role that returns plays in customer loyalty.
Awesome. And if I didn't mention it, I am moderating the conversation today. So we'll be, talking about my experience in the return space with the retailers that we work with, but also asking questions of the panelists as we move forward. So to dive right in and really address the paradigm shift that is happening today, NRF released an article recently that said that 743 billion in merchandise was returned. I think we often hear that returns have always been the cost of doing business, and it's just something that happens and we have to deal with it. But when we hear a stat like that and we start to understand the rise of e-commerce, and with the rise of e-commerce, there's also a rise in returns. I think retailers are starting to realize that it's just no longer a cost of doing business, and it really needs to be an issue that's addressed. And so I find that retailers are starting to look at different ways of how to combat those returns. So I'll start with Crystal. Do you have any examples of how Brooks, was thinking about returns perhaps 5 years ago, and then how might they be thinking about it now?
Sure. I'd say about 5 years ago, we knew that we needed to reduce returns. But what we didn't quite know was how big or how small is our problem. Brooks is primarily a wholesale business, so we sell gear through national retail accounts and also in specialty running stores across the globe. These stores have their own processes and tracking for returns. So holistically, we weren't sure what the larger impact was, but since our direct-to-consumer business has grown significantly, purchases and returns data from our brooksrunning.com site can be tracked, analyzed with the help of partners like Returnalize, as well as action to help reduce returns, get operational efficiencies, and ultimately satisfy the customer.
Great, thank you. Morgan, how about you?
Yeah. So for Hatch, I would say 5 years ago, one of our biggest goals was really just optimizing the overall mail-back return experience and offering our customers a seamless return site experience. Now customers really want options and flexibility. So just that option of going through the return portal, getting the option to send it back for a refund doesn't quite cut it. So it's really looking at that process and fine-tuning it so that we can offer our customers some additional ways that they can get their returns back to us, and also some different refund options. So those include offering our customers express returns. So we offer mail-back returns where our customers can drop their returns off at a FedEx location. Alternatively, we offer our customers express returns. So with that option, they're able to go to a Staples location and drop their return off and get the refund right away, which is another huge focus for us at the moment. Customers really want their refunds as soon as possible. So trying to just speed up that whole entire process to get them their refunds as quickly as possible, which then leads to a positive experience and will hopefully drive them to return and shop with us again.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it speaks to the upfront process, right? So the customer facing process and the start of the life cycle of the return. But then obviously there's all the workings on the back end and of understanding, what's coming back, what got initiated. Did it all come back and be received, even though it was initiated? We often, sometimes might see things get initiated, but they don't get returned. Once you've gotten it returned, what do you do with it? I think, retailers that have that brick and mortar and online, you see this phenomenon lately of the items in the store that are like online specials because they were returned in store. And then, has it been worn? So in terms of the life cycle of returns, it really is, there's quite a bit of involvement there. So Zach, I'm going to point this question to you, but how are you looking at all of these pieces and knitting together a cohesive story in terms of the returns life cycle?
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit on a lot of it. I think really we look at it through, three key touch points. So starting kind of at the beginning, the first step is initiation, right? And the key there is offering shoppers the ability to start a return or an exchange on their own through a portal. And really, key to that is having it be seamless and self-service. Morgan can attest that giving shoppers that ability to initiate that return on their own without needing to reach out to the customer care team and involve them in that process is key. And a second component of initiation that we look at and advocate for is really nudging the shopper towards an exchange as opposed to a refund during that initiation. And if you're able to convert some of those refunds into repurchases, you're retaining more of that revenue and avoiding those refund dollars. And so you're delighting the customer with a new item, and you're also helping your bottom line by avoiding those refund dollars. So that covers initiation, and then following it through to the next step in the life cycle, that's around return methods. And what methods are you offering to your shoppers to return those items? And Morgan hit on optionality, which is key. Different shoppers want different things, and so the ability to offer different options and kind of meet the shopper where they are is so critical to the return method. And I'd say mailback is viewed as kind of the traditional method, but we're seeing and powering a lot of innovations in this area. There's the example that you gave, Christine, for omni-channel retailers where customers are choosing to just bring those online items directly back into stores. There's third-party drop-off options, lockers where the items can be returned, even the ability to just have those items picked up directly from your front door. So the number of methods that are out there really just expanding, exponentially. And key here is, 71% of shoppers that we've surveyed say that they prefer those drop-off options to a mailback. So they don't want the arts and craft project of finding a box and printing the label. They want the ability to just drop it off somewhere with no box, no label, and be on their way. And so the final step in the life cycle is around, receiving, conditioning, and dispositioning that item when it gets back. And so, key here is you want to get those resellable items back into stock as quickly as possible. And, this is especially important for seasonal items where you have a limited window to sell those items through. And so you really want to get those back into stock as quickly as possible. And so those are kind of the three key steps in the life cycle that we look at. There's also a lot of interconnectedness between those. And so what we advocate for is really for retailers and brands to consider all three when evaluating their overall return strategy.
Great. Thanks, Zach. I think that gave a really good perspective from the role of the logistics provider, but would love to hear from Crystal in terms of, what does the life cycle look like from a retailer's perspective?
Sure. So, well, I think there are different angles and perspectives to look at when returns come through. From a customer standpoint, Zach is absolutely right. Like, make it easy and convenient and speedy to get the returns through if that's what the customer wants. On the back end, like internally, you've got work to do, right? When it comes to returns. So Brooks wants our customers to have the best fit, feel, and ride from our shoes and apparel. So I've actually been leading a cross-functional team at Brooks called the Returns Action Team, which does not make the best acronym, but it is an effective group. And it consists of product development and design, supply chain operations, research, sales, and marketing. And basically, it's every stage of the life cycle of a product. And with Returnalize's help, we're able to look at the data and get the full picture of a return. So we can look at items coming back and ask deeper questions to understand why that item is being returned and in what condition. We can also understand how to make improvements to the product or the way that they're promoted, basically providing a satisfying experience for the customer. And in addition, we can track customer behavior post the returns experience, bringing the picture full circle and also driving re-engagement and loyalty.
Great. Yeah, so I think that leads us to our next topic, which is really the core of why we're all here today, and that's to talk about customer loyalty and, how do returns really impact customer loyalty? I have a lot to say in this area before, I pass it over to some of the other panelists, but, I think there are a lot of different things that can happen within the returns process or why a customer is returning that may impact their loyalty with a brand or prevent them from coming back. So to Crystal's point, what we're able to do is monitor and understand, did something perhaps arrive too late? Did something arrive damaged? Or, for Brooks, it's really important that the shoe is intact and it does what they said it's going to do. And if the item is defective or worn or damaged, that's going to impact that customer who received that item. Or perhaps in the luxury space, right? When you're shopping with luxury brands, you are expecting a luxury item to come into your home. And if you get that item and your perceived quality of that item is not on par with what you paid for or what that brand stands for, your loyalty is going to be impacted. In fact, personally, I have a personal experience where I've been a loyal customer to the specific brand for many, many years. The last 3 orders I placed, 2 of them arrived super late. One was during the holidays, so it missed Christmas. The second one again was late. The last one actually got lost and never made it to me. So I had said, I'm done shopping with this retailer online and I'm only going into store for their stuff because they can't seem to get it right. The other way of looking at it too is about, what does the customer behavior tell you? So every time a customer makes a return, it's a signal to a retailer. It's telling them, why am I returning this product? And I think oftentimes, we can look at certain things, but it's really important to look at the behavior post the original purchase. When she came back, what else did she do? For another example, we were able to identify for a big national retailer that their sizing was inconsistent with their jean silhouettes. So she buys a silhouette in a size 27. She comes back and she decides, I'm going to get a new silhouette. I'm going to try the boyfriend jean. But I have to size down or I have to size up because the 27 is now not fitting me. That can create also, a poor customer experience, causing me to perhaps go on and try another brand or not return. So with that said, because I've said a lot and given a lot of examples, as I mentioned, is just passion of mine. I'd love to hear from Morgan in terms of how Hatch, how do returns impact your customer loyalty?
Yeah, speaking on returns specifically, I like to look at this really from the eyes of a consumer. So when I order something online or in store, the last thing that I really want to do is go through the whole entire return process, whether that be mailing it back or dropping it off at a store. So our main goal really is offering a positive returns experience, because who wants to go through a negative returns experience or having to jump through hoops to try to return something, especially if, like you said, something arrives damaged or it arrived late. I really want to then offer that customer a great experience and be able to do it seamlessly. So there's quite a few things that we'll offer customers if they had a less than positive experience. That could be waiving the return shipping fee, offering an exchange, where we go out and get that exchange order shipped out immediately so that we can get them a new piece if, let's say, the item arrived damaged. Just talking about returns, outbound shipments, and if those are lost in transit, just making sure that we are going in and getting those reshipped or offering some kind of resolution to the customer so that we're leaving them happy. But when it comes to specifically returns impacting customer loyalty, it just comes down to a happy customer is a customer that's going to come back and shop with you. And if you're offering them a positive returns experience, that they're not having to jump through hoops, or like one of you said, an art project to go and
Right.
send a return back, it's definitely going to offer them a much better experience. So that's always our main goal when it comes to returns and how that impacts customer loyalty.
Great. I think it was Zach who said it was an art project.
I love that one.
Gotta track down the box. You gotta print the label, find
Label.
tape. Yeah, there's a lot of steps involved there with mailing that item back.
Zach, do you want to share from your perspective how returns might impact customer loyalty?
Yeah, I think, Morgan hit a lot of it. So I'd add just a little bit to what she said, which is, what we see with our retailers and brands who we work with is that their best customers are also their most frequent returners.
Yep.
And so these are shoppers who are loyal to the brand. They're willing to take risks with what they buy, and they're keeping a lot, but they're also returning. And on the flip side of that, we hear that 95% of customers are less likely to shop at a retailer again if they have a poor returns experience. So like on one hand, you have your best shoppers as your most frequent returners. And then on the other hand, they're going to churn as customers if they don't have a great returns experience. And so really returns should be viewed as an opportunity to delight your best customers. And I think that's a lot of what Morgan hit on is, using that as an opportunity to really show, that you're customer centric and you're offering them an experience that makes it easy and seamless to initiate and complete that return so that they can keep shopping with you.
Absolutely. As a customer, I agree. So Crystal, for you, let's talk about what some of your loyalty drivers might be, right? Knowing that Brooks is very proud of the product that they put out in the marketplace.
Yeah. So the things that drive loyalty for Brooks is to meet and exceed the experience that the customer desires. As someone mentioned, surprise and delight them in providing real and authentic value and solutions to their problems will in turn get you real and authentic engagement. So in our case, if they want to run or walk to maintain their health, or if they have a goal of running a marathon, our shoes and apparel need to be their go-to to achieve those goals. Of course, every business would love to eliminate returns completely, but if a customer doesn't love our gear or their expectations aren't met, the returns process needs to be very simple. And that process, as everyone here has mentioned, it is a prime sales driver, an opportunity to engage directly with the customer and build that relationship with your brand. Making it really easy and convenient and fast to do the return is more likely to get re-engagement again. We actually, I'm proud to say at Brooks, Forbes has a 2024 Customer Experience All-Star list, and we are the only footwear and apparel brand that made the top 20. So we're very proud of that.
You should be very proud of that. That's awesome. Great. Morgan, I'd love to also hear from you as well. I think, with maternity wear, obviously that's a very special time in a person's life, and it's also a limited time in a person's, life. So interested to hear, how returns, and what are some of your biggest loyalty drivers for Hatch?
Yeah. So similarly to what Crystal was noting, I would say our biggest loyalty drivers really are our products and our overall customer experience. At Hatch, our main goal is to provide our customers with quality products that they can wear before, during, and after pregnancy. To that, we have a large majority of customers that will feel our products, use our products, try our products, and they love them. And then they will stick with us and continue to wear them even after pregnancy. So personally, for example, I wear quite a lot of Hatch clothing, even though I'm not pregnant, have not been. So really the goal is just getting our customers these clothes, getting them to try them, and then just based off of the quality and their experience with the brand itself, hopefully they will come back and shop with us even post-pregnancy. But to just add on to that, when a customer loves your products, they're going to keep coming back. And in this case, whether that means that they're pregnant or they're not pregnant. If they're not pregnant and they don't want to wear the clothes still, they could always just gift Hatch or suggest it to one of their newly pregnant friends. So I would say just, ensuring that our product really is the best quality possible and providing our customers with a wonderful customer experience is what really drives that loyalty for us.
Awesome. Well, I didn't know you could wear Hatch clothes before and after pregnancy. I'll have to definitely check you guys out. I did want to make note that there is an error on the slide for those of you reading the stats. So the 95% is supposed to say will make them less likely or not likely to shop from a brand again if they have a poor experience, which is what Zach also noted before. So great topic of conversation. Obviously, a lot of why we're here to discuss today, and it's apparent that the customer certainly comes first, and it's important to make sure that the customer has a great experience. With that said, return policies and tracking returns, that is also shifting in terms of, retailers starting to take a deeper look at their returns data to really understand why products are coming back, what products are coming back. And we often find that in the past or even current state, retailers have a really good idea of understanding what categories might be coming back. They certainly know when there's a really bad product and that's coming back consistently. But they're not perhaps looking at those deeper dimensions. So certainly where we've provided value and where we've kind of guided our customers to look at is looking at the full spectrum of data available from a returns lens. So that's not just looking at your return rates at a high level, but really understanding the return reasons made by your customers when they're filling out those forms, or even the unstructured data of customer comments or customer reviews. But then also looking at her behavior afterwards or during the process. To Zach's point, you always want to save the sale. So if you can get her to exchange that item for a different size or color and save the sale, that's great. And sometimes her exchange behavior is also telling you if there is a sizing problem with an item. Bracketing, she's trying multiple sizes and colors and determining what to keep, again, can also be an indicator of a size and fit problem. So it's not just about looking at one dimension of data, but really looking at the full story and understanding what is happening when she buys your products and makes a return. So kind of with all of that said, Crystal, I'm going to ask you, what returns data are you tracking and how are you using it today?
Basically everything that you just said, right? So Returnalize have definitely been almost an extension of ourselves here at Brooks. We try and track everything, like not just product category, style, size, color, when they returned it, did they buy those multiples and why, but also what did the customer do on the site, or what information did they see before they made the purchase and then returned it? What do the reviews say about the product? Does that correlate? So the factory, the technology, the launch date even, those are things that we're looking at and seeing, is there insights to be had about our products and the way that we can improve it, or on the way that we speak to it on the site. So that level of detail that we're driving down to, there are stories to tell and insights to find that will drive action to solve the problem. So I love walking away from these meetings that we have with Returnalize, where we have insights and actions, and then we can revisit them later to see what the impact of those actions did in reducing returns.
Great. Thanks so much, Crystal. Morgan, how about you?
Yeah. So when it comes to returns, we track those extremely closely as we're always working to lower the return rate and offer our customers a better customer experience. So firstly, we look at the overall return rate, which allows us to track how our customers are liking our overall product collection and how we're doing overall. Then we look at the return rate by collection, product, and at a more granular SKU level. So this really allows us to dive deeper into any product specific issues that could be happening. So if we're looking at an overall collection, for example, maybe there's a certain style issue or something wrong with that could be driving returns there. But if we're looking at it on a SKU level and we see that the majority of customers are choosing a return reason that says that it's too small, let's say, then we know that we probably have a sizing issue with that specific product, and we need to dive into that for future production runs or any similar products that we decide to offer in the future. So when we look at the returns data, we really dive into the return reasons, and we look at that specifically on a collection, product, and SKU level. So let's say we are seeing an issue with a product overall. That's seems to obviously be a product issue, so we need to dive specifically into that. But let's say we're seeing an issue with a specific size. Maybe that could be a problem with the factory and the way that they made that specific pair of jeans, let's say. So really just looking at all of that data and looking at it from an overall picture, but also diving deep into any specific issues that we can find to see what we can do to improve that in the future. And then we take that information and we partner with our production teams, our design teams, and our site teams to make sure that we're really communicating all of that. So when it comes to partnering with product, it's making sure that we're not experiencing those issues in the future. When we're partnering with our site teams, it's making sure, okay, if we're seeing that a lot of customers are returning this product because of a sizing issue, maybe we need a note on the site that they should size up or they should size down so that we can get them the correct size. So really just staying on top of all of that data and trying to look at it in real time so that if we're seeing issues specifically with a collection that we're only running for a specific period of time, we can then pivot and make those updates on the site so that it's super clear to our customers that, you know, they maybe need to choose a different item so that we can get them the right piece off the bat rather than them having to go through the exchange process.
Awesome. Sounds like you guys have your own rat meeting similar to Crystal.
Yes.
That's great. Perfect.
Yeah.
We love to hear that at Returnalize because I mean it really is when that signal, you're right, it involves product, it involves income, it involves everyone within the organization. Absolutely. Zach, how about you?
Yes, I think Crystal and Morgan shared a lot of great insights around, returns reduction and just sort of reacting to customer feedback, et cetera. I think, in our world, very focused on, the return is happening. And so what's the best possible outcome for the shopper and for the retailer? And so to speak on that a little bit, I'll kind of tie it back to the life cycle that I mentioned. So when you look at initiation, we want to assess how satisfied shoppers are with that self-service returns experience and what is their customer satisfaction on that experience. And usually looking for 90% plus there. That's kind of best in class for that self-service returns initiation. Also related to the initiation is, are you driving exchanges and saving that sale? So ideally looking for 20% plus of shoppers to elect an exchange instead of a refund and kind of preserve those refund dollars in that sale for the retailer. And then following that through to the return methods, we want to look at, how quickly are you getting inventory back into stock or getting it back so that it can be restocked and at what cost. And so what we typically look for is, 7 days, no more than 7 days from the time that the shopper, ships the item back or drops it off to having that item be received and sent to its next best channel. And then finally, on the receiving and dispositioning side of things, do you have the capabilities in place, excuse me, to get the item to its most profitable next home? And is this enabled through an automated workflow? So with apparel, for example, best in class is you want 90% of your inventory to be going back into stock to be resold. And then ideally you have 2 or 3 other channel options for inventory that's not sellable, whether that be re-commerce channels, a liquidation channel, or potentially donation. So that just gives you a sense of some of what we're looking at across the various stages in the life cycle of a return.
Great, awesome. I think that is a nice segue, in terms of what do you do about inventory and restocking, and what do you do with things? Some of our retailers that have those bulk items, when you start talking furniture and appliances, or canoes and kayaks, that's going to be a more costly item to return. And then where do you store it and what do you do with it? But I think, if we're talking apparel and footwear, it's a little bit easier to address the inventory and restocking. I want to throw, the idea of, 2 different camps of what we try to use returns data to inform in the future in terms of inventory control or restocking. So if you have carryover items, so for Hatch, there might be a product that you seasonally always have on hand. You might change out a color per season, but it's your signature, style dress. Understanding the returns of that carryover item would allow you to inform product development for the future, because it's an important item for you to continue to carry over. Also, returns can inform your inventory levels, how much you purchase next year, knowing how much is going to come back. And then I want to separate that from new products or seasonal products. So Zach, you also mentioned in terms of, making sure that you get things restocked quickly, or I think somebody else mentioned, sometimes the seasonal items are coming and they're going and you don't have much time to, restock them, and you want to get them sold. So again, flagging things very early and using returns data to flag things as they're hitting your site for that season as a new product, and really addressing the problem early would also be another way to use returns to kind of manage your inventory or your new products. So I'll, pass it over to Crystal to understand in terms of what trends are you guys looking for, perhaps with your returns when it comes to inventory, restocking, new products. You have a very generous return policy. You let people try your products for 90 days. And obviously that creates another element of restocking once somebody's worn a product.
Yeah. Yeah, we want people to be happy, and for whatever reason, if they aren't happy, then yes, return it, within that 90 days. Go on that run, travel, go on a nice walk with your family. Like, yeah, if you're not satisfied, then, there's always the return capability that is available. But when looking at trends overall, besides the obvious ones around seeing what sizes, color styles are getting returned more often, we're also starting to look at which cohorts of customers are buying certain things or returning more often than another cohort. So all those things are factors into keeping people satisfied and meeting their expectations and giving them the best run that they've ever had. And of course, all of that information helps our demand planning team for the future, possibly helping the product teams as well. Knowing what is working for what group and what isn't. These trends could help us to decide there might be a gap in our product line for the market, or there's a certain type of runner, or that the description messaging on the site is not specific enough for a customer to fully understand. So all those things are factors, but again, data is so exciting for me, and I know Christine shares this as well. So there's so much that the data can tell us. And again, it requires, focus and attention and wanting to dive deep when you start seeing something that could be a trend.
Absolutely. Morgan, how about you for Hatch? Are there certain trends that you are looking for when you consider inventory or launching new products, for example?
For sure. At Hatch, we're constantly analyzing what our customer wants and then what they're returning post-purchase. Step one is always going to be just offering our customers the product. So our planning team looks at the collection, the product, and past return rates and how those products sold, so that we can ensure that we're buying enough inventory to offer those customers what they want so that we're not selling out. In terms of returns, so we offer our customers free exchanges if they want to exchange for the same piece in a different size or color. On a monthly basis, we look at what we call bracketed returns. So essentially, if a customer is looking to exchange, but they're unable to exchange because the item is out of stock, or if the customer is purchasing multiple items and then returning the item that doesn't fit. We want to make sure that if a customer is looking to exchange, we have the inventory in stock so that they can complete that, rather than having to come back to us and be a return for a refund. So we're always analyzing the inventory levels from that point of view to make sure that we're able to offer our customers a direct exchange so that they're not having to go and purchase two sizes, try one on and return it. And then that kind of partners with what we were talking about previously, just making sure that we're really communicating as much information as we can on the products, that we're getting the customer the right product off the bat. But of course, exchanges and returns are just the nature of the game. So making sure that, we're able to offer those to customers when they need them. And then just talking about restocks, specifically talking about damaged returns. So we do ask that customers send their return back to us in a new and unused condition with the tags attached. But there's always going to be times where things are returned in a damaged condition or a condition that isn't in a sellable condition. So we work really closely with our warehouse partner to make sure that they're inspecting each return and steaming and bagging it so that it's in a perfect condition if it is deemed as resellable. So just really making sure that we have those SOPs in place and those processes so that they can triple check that the items are in fact in a state that is sellable, so that we can then go along and restock that inventory and sell it again.
Awesome. You mentioned bracketing, which is such a great data point to look at. And I think, exchanges have come up a lot as well. We haven't really touched a whole lot on reviews, which is just all the buzz these days amongst retailers. As you want to make sure that your customers are leaving you good reviews on your website. Sometimes those reviews may drive, size guidance on your page as well. Sometimes those reviews will, if you're able to take the unstructured data and really analyze it, find problems where a customer may pick a certain return reason, but then in the reviews content, you identify that there are other issues with the item, or they just changed mind because they didn't have good enough return reasons to really leave you a proper comment. And then when you start to review the content within the reviews or return comments, you start to see other trends. So I definitely think there's a relationship between product views and reviews and returns. It's just a matter of being able to analyze that unstructured data, to be able to segment it and summarize it in a way that it can be useful for the business. Crystal, what do you have to say about customer reviews and returns?
Yeah, we really appreciate customer reviews. We want to hear this user-generated, information. People will send us videos, images of their great run, or if something's maybe, if something is not going well, they should let us know about that too. But basically, product reviews is absolutely crucial. Not just for the company, but also it helps inform others like them. So if they're a casual runner or walker versus like, somebody who does run a marathon or uses our shoes to do a lot of traveling, like we want to hear from them on how the products are doing, as they use it, or what isn't working, but hearing that voice of the customer is paramount. We find a lot of interesting information from that. And yeah, the data is one thing, but again, the customer voice is also part of that data set.
Awesome. That's great. All right. So coming up, we've got 10 minutes left and we still have a couple of questions. So I think I'm going to ask one more as we move, into our last section here, and then go to questions because we're getting a lot of really great questions from folks who have attended. But let's close out with what interesting trends have you seen for your company? Or I want to rephrase it to say, maybe what trends have you seen lately that were a surprise to you? So oftentimes when we start working with retailers, they think bracketing is horrible for their business. We end up telling them, actually, it's very good for your business. And did you know that she often brackets on color more than she does on size? Also, sometimes, people think that their exchange rate is much higher than it actually is. And that's when it's really important to partner with someone like an Optoro to get those exchange rates up so that you can save the sale. Or recently, in general, stretch is great in a garment. It often leads to lower returns because it provides a better fit. For one retailer, we actually identified that stretch wasn't that great, and it was too much stretch in the product, leading to more excessive size and fit issues and higher returns. So sometimes trends are usually on par with what you might have a hypothesis about, and sometimes trends may be complete opposite of what your business was thinking was happening internally. So Morgan, for Hatch, what kind of trends have you guys been seeing in terms of returns within the company?
Yeah. So Hatch sells clothing that is designed to be worn before, during, and after pregnancy. And like we talked about before, a large majority of our customers are pregnant. So during that time, it can be difficult to find the correct size. So I would say that our biggest return trend is really surrounding sizing and sizing issues. So we're always analyzing that data and looking at it to see how we can make improvements so that we can help reduce the return rate. I would say that's really our biggest return trend would be sizing issues, and then just customers looking to exchange as a result of that.
Right. Yep, that's common. I think, Crystal, you guys are no stranger to that as well. How about for Brooks? What types of trends are you guys seeing these days?
Yeah. To your point, sometimes the data unlocks something that you didn't know about returns. And I think what we're starting to learn more and more is that the type of customer that is purchasing our shoes, depending on the level of activity they're doing with it, if you're running a marathon, you want that best shoe. You are very discerning. If it does not fit and feel the way that you thought it would when purchasing it online, then again, that's, we want to know about that, and you please return it and exchange it for something else. But yeah, that is one of the key things. I think these cohorts, the data is trying to tell us the behaviors of certain types of customers. And so again, that just gives us way more information that is helpful to create the right product for people.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, I'm going to dive into some of the Q&A, and if we have a couple of minutes left, I'll circle back with our last question. But I think everyone spoke a lot about in terms of creating a really easy breezy process for the customer with the customer in mind, but there was a great question around how do you handle restocking fees for returns, or what are your pricing strategies around returns? That's actually another shift we're starting to see as returns increase. Retailers are going from free shipping, free returns to charging for returns. So absolutely great question here. Morgan, I'll start with you.
Awesome. Yeah, so at Hatch, we are always driving customers to exchange. So at the moment, we offer free exchanges for the same piece in a different size or color. If a customer is looking to return for a refund, we do charge a return shipping fee, but our express returns shipping fee is lower than our mailback return shipping fee. And the reason for that is really to try to drive our customers to choose that express return option. With that being said, our customers do also receive their refund at a much faster rate with our express return option. So they're receiving that refund as soon as it is dropped off at that location, as opposed to our mailback returns where those aren't refunded until they're received and processed at our warehouse. So we're really firstly driving those customers to hopefully exchange for the same piece in a different size or color. If they want to return for a refund, they absolutely can. And then we are charging a lower amount for those express returns to really try to drive those, since the cost is much less than the mailback returns. Additionally, we do have a few return reasons that are mapped where we will just automatically waive the return shipping fee if a customer is returning for a refund. An example of that is if the customer is choosing that their item was damaged, we don't want to be charging them a return shipping fee if they have a damaged item. If an order is arriving to a customer and the item is damaged, that's already a negative customer experience. So to try to offer them a better experience, we're then waiving that return shipping fee and offering them that full refund, so that we can hopefully drive them to come back with us and know that that is definitely not the standard.
Awesome. And you definitely don't advertise that, right? That's just a back end mechanism you have in place.
Yeah, we do not advertise that, but on the back end, something that we have in our pockets, which is nice.
That's great. Yeah, especially from a customer experience perspective.
Yeah.
Crystal, go ahead, Zach.
Sorry, just to add to that, I think,
Yeah.
Morgan hit on a couple of things that we really see as like best in class in this area of, to fee or not to fee, and whether to charge for returns or not. I think one is, what Hatch does that's awesome is sort of drives their shoppers towards the return methods that are both most convenient for the shopper, as well as best for Hatch from a cost perspective. And so that's definitely one best in class strategy that they employ. And then another that Morgan kind of hit on is around this concept of sort of dynamic policies, or having the policy be more personalized based on the shopper. So in the case that Morgan called out, it's around if that shopper receives a damaged item, you definitely don't want to charge them for the return on that. But we're also working with have seen retailers start to look at their loyalty program and offering free returns for their most loyal shoppers, but maybe having a fee for others. And so what we see is best in class is really around adding an element of personalization to the return policy and not having it be a one size fits all. But you're really, again, using it as an opportunity to, nurture that relationship with your best customers, and maybe consider penalizing folks who are your frequent returners, or potentially, seeing fraud with some of those shoppers. Absolutely.
Great point there. All right. One more question for Crystal and Morgan. So I'll have Crystal take this one. How about seasonality? How does seasonality impact your peak and returns?
Yes, seasonality, definitely. We're trying to drive more traffic during those times, to our brooksrunning.com site, to our store partners. And so, of course, more purchases, more traffic, more possibility for returns. However, our return rate is less than the industry average. So we're trying to use the data to prevent returns from happening, so customers don't need to return something. So that's why things like the returns action team are critical in getting ahead of these trends and insights that we're starting to see. But yeah, if they aren't happy, then they need to let us know. But yes, seasonality is impacted.
Awesome. I will take these next couple that kind of go together. So are there any strategies in place to reduce returns, followed by explicitly linking returns data to churn and loyalty at the individual customer level? So here at Returnalize, that's exactly what we do. Is we partner with retailers like Brooks, and we look at all the returns data from all the different dimensions I've discussed throughout this webinar, and then we give the recommended actions in terms of what to do next to reduce the returns. So I think Morgan really hit the nail on the head when she said, you know, we understand why the returns are happening, and then some of the low-hanging fruit might be going to your website and adjusting how you're communicating size and fit to your customers, or perhaps the details. Sometimes the color can be completely off, you know, those reds, those pinks, those, you know, peaches, sometimes on the site don't come off the right way, and when she gets it, she's like, gosh, this wasn't right. That's something simple that can be done to go ahead and course correct and curb returns from happening in the future. Then there's those longer term things you can do, obviously, such as product improvement, product enhancements, going back to the product team, adjusting your assortment for the next season to ensure that you have the right assortment that's going to sell well and return at a lower rate. So absolutely, there's a lot of different strategies that you can put in place to reduce returns. And one of them can actually be looking at the individual customer level and understanding their returns behavior. So Zach is right. Your most loyal customers are going to be your highest returners. However, there's probably segments within there that might be abusers, and you may want to, you know, track them or penalize them along the way. Also, you know, we can look at returns behavior post your first time purchase, your second time purchase, your third time purchase, and understand where there is drop off on the loyalty. So what happened? Where did she buy and return, and what was her experience to eventually cause her loyalty to drop off? So that is another area of expertise that we offer, where we're able to link the customer data to the product return data and understand, you know, how returns can cause churn at that loyalty level. So with that said, we're right on the dot at 2 o'clock. I hope everyone has a good rest of their day, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Good job,
Take care.
Christine.